What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? Despite their win on Sunday, we still saw all the flaws in this series against the Philadelphia Phillies and why Ryne Nelson needs all the help he can get in his first start of the season against the New York Mets.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist and graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, please follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked on Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle, because recently I've been going live on Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. Please hit subscribe there as well. We are currently live. We've been trying to go live Sunday through Thursday after Dbacks games. So if you want to come, be part of the community, you could drop comments or read them throughout the show. So just hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. Hit that little notification bell so you get notified when I go live, or follow me on the social medias because I always tweet out before I go live as well. So stay tapped in, stay locked on with Locked on Diamondbacks. But on today's show, we're going to be discussing, despite their win on Sunday, how we still saw all the flaws in this series against the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll talk about the Dbacks, workload management with their players, and is it kind of a farce? And why Ryne Nelson needs all the help he can get in his next start against the New York Mets. So a whole bunch I want to talk to you guys about on today's podcast. But first, I want to say thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. Like I said, one of those platforms is YouTube, so please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. All right, now let's talk about Now let's hop into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast and talk about that series against the Philadelphia Phillies. Because despite their win on Sunday, this was still a series where we saw all the flaws by the Dbacks. And right now, what I'm most frustrated with Arizona is their inability to build momentum. They just kind of hover around 500, kind of just teasing us with the wild card race, but they're not really snatching these series. They're blowing a lot of games. They're just giving series away. And after winning a gaudy series against the New York Mets, Dbacks once again looked lifeless in this series against the Philadelphia Phillies. Dbacks have been blowing series left and right all season long, especially to teams that they're going to be facing in the postseason race for the rest of the year. This was a series where the Dbacks definitely could have used a win. You look at that series against the Atlanta Braves, the series against the Chicago Cubs, and I'm telling you guys, we're going to get to August, September, it's going to be a tight race, and we're going to say, man, the Dbacks own the tiebreaker over none of these teams. They're going to have to flat out finish ahead of those teams in the standings to make the postseason. We're going to end up in the same scenario we were last year, and it's going to be so frustrating because we're going to look at the end of the season and be like, man, we blew all those early April and May series, and all these series I think are just so important. It's not even just the ones against the NL teams and the Phillies and the Braves. Even that series against the Tampa Bay Rays, where the Dbacks felt like the better team and lost. That was an easy series to build momentum, stack up some wins, and instead the Dbacks lost. I don't care that the Dbacks went 3-3 on the road trip. Dbacks have now lost 4 of their last 5 series. That's what I care about more. And in that stretch of series, the Dbacks, from every phase of the game, just don't look like a well-polished organization right now. You look at Friday's game, and it's like, that was definitely one the D-backs should have won, but we just got some bad luck. Merrill Kelly, he leaves the game early with cramps. It looked like he was on his way to a dominant performance, a dominant start. Fortunately, he had to leave, and with the bullpen already thin, we really needed a lengthy Merrill Kelly start, and so we had to throw Jose Castillo out there in the 7th inning, and of course, he gives up the lead. Now, maybe you question, Should we have gone to Jose Castillo in that moment? Or maybe you question why he's even in the bullpen at all. I think those are all fair questions, but I don't put a ton of blame on Torrey for that situation. Saturday, Brandon Pfaadt, he gets lit up. I mean, he could barely grip the ball in those conditions. Probably should have had a rain delay when you watch that game. But at the same time, the Phillies went through those conditions. Where were their excuses? Why were they able to put up so many runs? It's just because they're used to those conditions? Is it because the D-backs play in a dome every day, so they're not used to being outside? Whatever the case is, why are the Phillies on Saturday dominating the D-backs? Meanwhile, the D-backs are making excuses. And then you look at the game on Sunday, it felt like a game where the D-backs are going to put up a lot of runs, and then we lose because the bullpen's inability to have shut down innings. How many times have we seen a starter leave after like 5 1/3, 5 2/3? They only gave up 1 or 2 earned runs, but there's a man on second, right? There's a man on first. The bullpen guy comes in, the reliever comes in, whoever it is, and just gives up, a 2-run double or a home run, and all of a sudden our starters, ERA, their stat line on the day goes from like, 5 2/3, 2 earned runs to 5 2/3, like 4 earned runs, because that's what happened to Erod today. That's what we saw happen to, can't remember who it is off the top of my head, but we've seen that over the last couple of weeks where a starter will leave the game. And if, the reliever comes in, doesn't allow the inherited run to score, the starter can still finish with a near quality start. We've seen so many times recently, the reliever cannot just come in and have a shutdown inning. They let whatever runners on the bases end up scoring, and it's been a problem. Kevin Ginkel came in. He struggled a little bit. Shelby Miller, we've been begging to get him a clean inning. We're like, let's use Shelby Miller as the closer. Let's get him a clean inning. We finally did all that. He had a 2-run lead, and he starts it off with a solo home run, first earned run allowed all season long, then a couple walks, then another earned run, and all of a sudden, it's a tie game. We're going to extra innings. Thankfully, the D-backs offense came alive in the 10th, but it felt like another game where we were going to look at the D-backs bullpen late in the game, high leverage situations, and just say, you guys are not getting it done. I cannot blame Torey Lovullo when the players do not perform, because we beg so much for Torey Lovullo to go with a 7-8-9 combination that we all like, that we all trust. And that's what he did today. He went Kevin Ginkel, he went Ryan Thompson, he went Shelby Miller, 7-8-9. Like, that's what you want if you're the Arizona Diamondbacks. If you're a D-backs fan, you cannot complain at all with Torey Lovullo's decision-making with the bullpen in that situation. And Ginkel didn't get the job done. Ryan Thompson thankfully did. And then Shelby Miller just had his worst performance of the season today. And it feels like anytime the D-backs have a lead or it's a close game going into these latter innings over the last 2 to 3 weeks, it feels like the bullpen cannot get any shutdown innings whatsoever. And I just look at this D-backs team right now, and I just feel like they are struggling so much to build momentum. And I do look at Torey Lovullo and wonder why that is. I don't just blame him for Sunday's game because I think that was on the bullpen, but the series overall, the series the last few weeks, I do not like the way this D-backs team is playing. I do think that falls on Torey Lovullo's shoulders, because I even look at a game like Sunday, and there's no Ketel Marte playing on Sunday. I know he's coming off injury with the hamstring issues, but the question is, why is Ketel Marte, who historically, you look at the stats, when he's batting from the right side of the plate, you can make the argument since 2018, him and Aaron Judge are the two best right-handed hitters in baseball. And with a lefty starter on the mound with the Philadelphia Phillies, why is Ketel Marte sitting? On the broadcast, they were like, yeah, Torey went to Ketel before the series and said, you're going to play 2 out of 3 games. Which games do you want to play? And apparently Ketel Marte said the first 2. I'm wondering, why is Torey Lovullo, the manager, going to the players and asking them when they should play? If you're Torey, go to Ketel Marte and saying, you're playing the first game of the series and you're playing the last game of the series, because in case we lose game number 2, we're going to need your offense to salvage the series. And considering there's a lefty on the mound you crush as a right-handed hitter, we're going to save you for the finale. But instead, Torey goes to Ketel Marte and asks him for his opinion on the situation. Torey, you're the manager. Go out there and make the decision yourself. That is kind of my issue with Torey Lovullo. I feel like he is getting too many opinions from the players and other people. And it's like, Torey Lovullo, I want you to be more decisive with your decision making, because there's a lot of concerning trends we've seen with the D-backs over the last few years since Torey Lovullo has taken over. In 2018, the D-backs were 74-61, leading the NL West division entering September. Then they went 8-19 the rest of the way and missed the playoffs. Yes, the D-backs went to the World Series in 2023, but they definitely backed into the postseason that year. They were 52-29 in the first half. They were 52-39 in the first half. Then they went 32-39 in the second half. They still made the playoffs, but with a negative run differential. Last year, D-backs lost a lot of games in the first half that screwed us up the rest of the year. I'm just saying there's a lot of trends over the last few years where Torey Lovullo struggles and he doesn't always push the right buttons. I think Torey Lovullo is a good manager if you need him to be a good manager for like a month of the season or a half of the season. But trusting Torey Lovullo for a 162-game season, like, he's been with the D-backs since 2017, and we have multiple years of sample sizes where this D-backs team can put together a good half, put together a few months, but sustained excellence when you have talented rosters. It feels like the D-backs have struggled under Torey Lovullo. It feels like we always struggle to build momentum and sustain momentum. I want to see Torey Lovullo take more command of this team. Don't go to your players and ask, hey, do you want to play today? Hey, do you want to play tomorrow? Make the decision yourself if you're Torey. Be more decisive with your decision making. Take more of a command. Let's light a fire under our guys, because next we head back home to take on the New York Mets and the LA Dodgers. Two very tough series. So Torey, command your guys. Let's light a spark and let's go defend our home turf. Now we'll discuss the D-backs and how they manage the players' workload in segment number 2. But first, I want to talk to you guys about Monarch Money, because ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. No more just frivolous spending on DoorDash. I actually have money in my pocket, and I'm cooking a little bit more nowadays. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for 50% off your first year. Back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, Frog Fan says, it seems so crazy, but it feels like the D-backs could be selling at the deadline. I don't think I'm at that point yet where the D-backs are selling at the deadline, because they're still in the wild card race. They're still, flowing around. They still have potential to get better and get hot, but I do not like what I'm seeing with the D-backs right now. And I think one of the issues could be players' health, because I want to talk about D-backs injuries and how they manage their players, because for a team that cares a lot about players' workload and keeping them fresh, keeping them healthy, I feel like the D-backs are like one of the worst teams in terms of actually keeping their guys on the field. It's not like our guys are out there tearing their ACL, running to first base, like just major fluke injuries, anything like that. It's stuff that you would feel like is manageable, stuff that you feel like if you have a good, training staff, that it should help keep these guys on the field. It's stuff like hamstring issues, shoulder inflammation, arm fatigue, cramping. It's like stuff you get when you're like a youngster playing soccer. Like, I don't understand how these major leaguers, like, how does Merrill Kelly deal with cramps every start? How are some of our best players just going down with hamstring issues? I just don't understand. It's stuff that I feel like would be a little bit more manageable for our players, but yet it seems like our D-backs guys struggle to stay on the field with like these soft tissue injuries. And I want to know who that falls on. Ketel Marte, it took him no time into the season. We know this is a guy who has dealt with hamstring issues the last couple years, and like a couple weeks into 2025, He pulls a blame on a ball that was smoked into the alley, looked like a stand-up triple, and instead he has to start gingerly walking just to second base, and he immediately knew this was a serious hamstring issue. And now Ketel Marte is finally back, but it's always in the back of your head, right? Anytime you see Ketel Marte up there now, anytime you see him running around the bases, it definitely feels like he's not going to run out, ground balls the rest of the season, and he probably shouldn't. He probably should take the Manny Machado approach, and it's like, yeah, if this is a ball to second base and I'm clearly going to be thrown out, like, I don't want Ketel Marte sprinting it down. If it's ninth inning and it's a double play ball to potentially give us the lead, like, sure, maybe Ketel Marte runs a little bit harder there. But for the most part, I need Ketel Marte to keep himself healthy the rest of the season. How come every time it looks like Merrill Kelly is about to have one of those starts that I've been asking for, one of those 7.2 innings pitch, one earned run, just complete dominance, he starts cramping? I want to know why. Why does he always have to be taken out? This is a major leaguer. Like, he says he's more hydrated than anyone. Is he not drinking water during the game? Maybe he should drink less water. Does he need a banana every other inning? Like, how is a professional not able to finish games because of cramping? I know what happens to players, but it feels like it happens way too often to Merrill Kelly. You look at AJ Puck and J Mart, our two back-end relievers entering the year, and I think some of their injuries definitely goes on Torey Lovullo, because Torey Lovullo has talked about it. He says he takes some of the blame for the utilization of AJ Puck this season. And he's even talked about how he's regretted not naming a closer at the beginning of the year. And then we've seen J Mart velocity down, and the D-backs are still going out there and throwing J Mart, because for some reason, just like Ketel Marte in the first segment where Torey Lovullo goes up to Ketel and he's like, hey, do you want to play? Which games do you want to play in this series? No, Torey, tell Ketel he's playing the first game and the last game because it's better for the team and it's better for him. Put your players in the best position possible, because you did it with J Mart. You saw his velocity clearly wasn't there. It was down 5 miles per hour, but because J Mart kept telling you he felt good, you kept throwing him out there, and now he's on the injured list. It makes no sense for a team that keeps saying they care about players' health to throw out players when they clearly don't look right. I think the fact that he didn't name a closer really hurt this team. We saw how important defining bullpen roles was in the playoffs in 2023, and yet we just didn't take any lessons from that postseason run, and we decided to do our own thing. And we even have Corbin Burnes now missing his next start with shoulder inflammation. Didn't he tell Torey in the spring training when he's going to be starting? Didn't he tell Torey, no, I'm not starting opening day. I need to stay on my routine. Now he's hurt. It's like Corbin Burnes is telling the coaching staff when he's going to pitch. Torey's just conceding. Either way, the guy gets hurt. Like, it just makes no sense. I look at last year, and I think the 2024 season, I think the biggest reason why the D-backs missed the playoffs last year is because of the injuries in the first half of the season, to the rotation and the lineup injuries in the second half of the year. But at the same time, you look at the common denominator, and it's the D-backs. All these players getting hurt with the rotation last year, soft tissue injuries the last couple seasons, and it's like, I have to look at Arizona. I have to look at their training staff, and I also have to look at Torey Lovullo. I think the fact that we keep trying to save players for the second half, for the postseason, I think it actually does a reverse effect on these guys, because they can't build their bodies up. You have to think about it like a callus. Like, when you go to the gym every day, yes, you're going to get blisters on your hands, but over time, those things harden and it makes your hands stronger, right? We're not getting the blisters. We're not getting the calluses. We're not letting these guys build up their bodies. We throw them out there for a half inning, then we say, hey, we're not going to see you for a couple days because we need to save you for the postseason. Like, don't be afraid to put a little workload on these guys. Use your best guys. Go out there to try and get these victories. There's too many games this season where we save our best guys because we need to save them for the rest of the year instead of getting the victory in front of us. How many times have we seen the D-backs lose a game because we weren't aggressive enough, because we had to save our guy? I do not like to see it. And now we got Ryne Nelson replacing Corbin Burnes on Monday, who we haven't seen be stretched out as a starter yet this season. That's a little bit concerning. I'm hoping Ryne Nelson could be a catalyst for this D-backs team, help us build some momentum, because he was the D-backs best starter in the second half of 2024. So maybe this could actually be a good sign for Arizona. You never like to see the highest paid player in franchise history go down with injury and go down on the injured list. But at least Ryne Nelson is a pretty good pitcher. He had a good year in 2024, but going against the New York Mets, it is going to be tough. And we'll discuss why the D-backs offense desperately needs to step up in this next game with Ryne Nelson on the mound in segment number 3. But hey, I first want to talk to you guys about Upwork because scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. I'm a freelance designer. I've been on Upwork before. And so if you want to hire talented professionals like me, definitely visit upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's upwork.com, upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. And now let's discuss. I do see a comment about the new City Connect jerseys. I haven't commented yet. I will say, just quick, maybe I'll do a longer segment on the City Connect jerseys another day. I don't mind the City Connect jerseys. They kind of give the feel of like the Phillies City Connect jersey. We we kind of have that softball feel. I don't hate it. My biggest issue, and maybe this is a hot take, I don't like the two-tone. I don't like having the sleeves a different color. I don't like the throwback Dbacks jerseys with the white, front vest, and then you have the purple sleeves. I think that's a hot take in Dbacks community, but I am not a fan. As a graphic designer who makes jerseys, I do not like that look. I like a nice one-color uniform look. If the sleeves were the same color as the vest, I think that would look a lot better. Again, I know it's a hot take, but I'm not a fan of those throwback D-backs uniforms. Growing up on the East Coast, I think it was a big reason why I was not a huge fan of the D-backs, because I was always like, don't really like the uniforms too much. So I'm sorry, D-backs fans, but City Connect, I don't mind it too much. Just wish the sleeves were the same color as the vest. But now let's talk about Ryne Nelson and why he needs a lot of run support in his next start against the New York Mets, because he is debuting for the D-backs on Monday with Corbin Burnes going down on the injured list with a little shoulder inflammation. We're finally going to see Ryne Nelson step up this season, who has been a little bit up and down. But again, in 2024, Ryne Nelson was very good for the D-backs, especially down the stretch in the second half of the year. He was really critical to what the D-backs did, and it felt like if we did not have Ryne Nelson in the rotation, we would have not even been as close to the playoffs as we were, because in the last 10 starts of the season, 64 innings pitched, a 3.2 ERA, a 1.03 whip, a 9.4 strikeouts per nine, like all the numbers were really good for Ryne Nelson. And if he can replicate what he did last year, like that's a great replacement for Corbin Burnes in 2025. And so far, the numbers on his four seam this year, pretty good. 244 average allowed, a 366 slugging allowed, and the expected stats are pretty much identical to the traditional stats. So they're telling you what the actual numbers are matching up with the advanced stats, which is, oh, my headphone just fell, which is very good. The cutter has also been very effective. It's only the slider that has been a little shaky for him this season. So as long as he's pounding the Mets with the hard stuff, he should have a pretty good start. The only issue is he hasn't really been stretched out as a starter this season. So he might only be able to go 50 to 60 pitches total. That could definitely be an issue. The quicker you get into this D-backs bullpen makes me concerned. Arizona did call up a former friend in Tommy Henry, who we've seen make starts before. I would not be surprised at all if, Ryne Nelson, he's at like 50 pitches through 3 2/3. Tommy Henry comes in to try to give the D-backs another 2 to 3 innings. That's where the game is going to get very dicey. If we see Tommy Henry come into the game, I'm going to be very scared. But we might have to be a little scared even with Ryne Nelson on the mound, because you look at his starts against the New York Mets in his career. And the Mets do have some success against Ryne Nelson. Francisco Lindor, 4 for 8 with 2 triples, a home run, and 3 RBIs. Pete Alonso, 4 for 9 with 3 home runs, 6 ribbies. And then Juan Soto, he's 3 for 12, but he's got a couple home runs, 4 ribbies, and 5 walks. And so you look at Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, and Pete Alonso, they basically have like a 1,400 OPS against Ryne Nelson in their career. Brandon Nimmo, he's 4 for 7. He's crushed Ryne Nelson. Jeff McNeil, he's 3 for 7. In total, this entire Mets lineup has a 320 average and a 1,205 OPS against Nelly in their career. And so we're going to need the D-backs offense to step up in a big way in this game against the New York Mets. And even though we saw them score a lot of runs on Sunday, if you look at the D-backs last 9 games entering Sunday's game against the Phillies, it has been struggling. They only average about 3.7 runs per game over the last couple weeks before Sunday. And so that is just not good enough. You look at runners in scoring position during that time, the D-backs were awful as well. You look at the game before Sunday, the road trip, Corbin Carroll was like 2 or 3 hits before Sunday's game during the road trip as well. Like, his offense has started to go down. You look at all the lefties really for the D-backs, and their numbers are just starting to get a little bit more, down to earth. Corbin Carroll now batting .281 with 344 OBP, 575 slug. Josh Naylor still 304 average, 380 OBP, 472 slug. Like, all the numbers are still really good for those guys, but just starting to come down a little bit. Now, we do have Lourdes Gurriel, who is starting to heat up, which should hopefully help his D-backs out. He's batting over 300 in his last 13 games. And so we finally have Gurriel on a heater, finally got some right-handed bats going to the offense, but we're going to need a little bit more than that. Going to this series, seeing 2 of these Mets starters already in David Peterson and Kodai Senga, I'm hoping that gives an advantage to the D-backs. That familiarity, I'm hoping, helps Arizona, especially considering Merrill Kelly and Ryne Nelson did not pitch against the Mets did not pitch against the Mets last week. I'm hoping that could be an advantage for the D-backs. The fact that we saw 2 of the 3 Mets starters already, and meanwhile the Mets have only seen one of these D-back starters, and it was Zach Gallen, who loves pitching in New York. Hopefully he also loves pitching against New York in Arizona as well. Would love to see a big Ketel Marte return to Chase Field. D-backs offense is better at Chase, over 800 OPS at home this season, so they like playing better in front of their home crowd. D-backs already got 1 series win against the New York Mets. 2 series wins could be huge the rest of the way, so the D-backs desperately need this series against the New York Mets. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.